So if you don't know already, I made a video on my channel of how I installed starlights on my 2019 Dodge Charger Scat Pack. So one of the good things about this kit is that you can actually control all the different colors or functions of the starlights. Like I just changed it to blue, red, and then you have a number of different colors that you can switch it to, music mode, whatever you really want to do. And in that video, I showed how to do all the starlights in terms of how to poke the holes, how to put the actual starlights into the headliner, how to take the headliner out, and so on. But what I didn't cover was all the wiring. Now I get at least 5 to 6 DMs a week on how to do the wiring because I noticed that I didn't really clarify on where the positive, the negative, where I tap into the fuse box, and so on. So in today's video, I'm actually going to be explaining every little step I took along the way to get the actual wiring portion of the starlight headliner completed for specifically a Dodge Charger Scat Pack, or any Charger, to be honest. Just excuse all the mess around in the garage. I'm kind of in the middle of a project right here. But yeah. And so that this video is as informative as possible, I made this little diagram for you guys so you guys can see exactly what I did. I'll put an actual digital version on the screen so you guys can screenshot that, and hopefully this helps. But just looking at it, we have the actual starlight module, which is the big box that you're gonna get in the kit. Obviously mine is in the car, so I don't have mine on me right now. You have the battery, you have a ground, you have a fuse top. There's a link to this in the description down below. If you're looking for what this is, you're gonna need a 5 amp fuse. If you get the kit that I have linked, you won't need to buy this separate, it'll come with one. But you could also use the one that's already in the car. And then here I have a diagram of the actual fuse box itself. And you can honestly just find this easier on the actual fuse box cover in the trunk of your car. So I obviously don't have my starlight box with me, it's already installed in the car. So today we're actually gonna be using this little light here so that you guys can see all these steps I took with the wiring to get it working in the car. So if you order the same kit I ordered off Amazon, I'll put that in the description down below as well. You're gonna get 2 different plug-in options. You're gonna get your wall plug-in, and then you're gonna get a car plug-in. And the car plug-in is just the same one that connects into your cigarette lighter. It's a 12 volt, just plug it in, you should be good to go. Now you can take that option if you want, but then you're gonna have some exposed wiring. You're gonna have that sitting in the cigarette lighter area at all times. So not really preferred, but if you wanna go that route, it's a lot easier. Now looking at the diagram, you're gonna have your actual starlight box, which is right here, and then you're gonna have a negative and a positive. Now you're not gonna see these right off the bat. You're actually gonna have to take one of the ends for the actual starlight box and snip it. So I used my car option, my 12 volt car plug-in option, and I just went ahead and snipped it right there. And within that wire, you're gonna see 2 more wires. One's gonna be a positive, one's gonna be a negative. And once you have the actual wires cut out, you should be able to access one positive, one negative. Now in case of this actual starlights, these might both be black. So the way you're gonna find out which one is your positive and which one is your negative is gonna be like this. So go ahead and turn your accessory mode on. And from there, you're literally just gonna take both the wires and test which one's your positive and which one's your negative. So I already know the white one's negative. So put that on there. Put the red on your positive. And now you know, as you can see with the light flashing, that this one's my positive, this one's my negative. So now you have your positive and negative wires, obviously mark them so you know. You'll also need to extend these wires out because they need to be the length of the actual vehicle. So they need to get from the battery all the way to the front of the headliner. If you watch the other video, you know where to put the actual starlight box, but you're gonna need to extend these. So mark them so you know which ones you're extending, and when you're plugging everything back up at the end, you're not gonna have intermixing wires that are connected to different things, because when you plug the actual plug back into the starlight module, it's gonna need to have a positive running all the way to the battery or whatever power supply, and a negative running all the way to the ground. So if you mess up somewhere along the way, it won't turn on. Now that you know which one's your negative wire and which one's your positive wire, you have those marks sitting here. Now you're gonna have 2 options for your actual ground. Now the ground is very easy to do. You can actually find a bolt on the chassis itself. This is a prime example of a ground connected to the actual chassis, so you can use that, or you're gonna ground it directly to the battery itself, which is what I did. I just took the ground wire, connected to this little metal female connector, put it around this bolt and then just tighten it all down, so that way it's ground to the actual battery itself. But both options work fine. Now, this is the hardest it's gonna get. This is the actual wire tap fuse. This is gonna be what your positive wire connects to. Now, the first step is going to be to take your positive wire, which is the red one here, and in your case, it's gonna be a black one that you have marked, and crimp it into this fuse. So this is gonna go in here, we're gonna crimp it down, and then from there you have your actual positive connecting to the fuse. So now I have the actual positive from the main power wire crimped into the fuse tap. From there, just take the stock fuse that comes in slot 47, adaptive front light DRL. Not sure how well you guys can see that. Right there, take that fuse out, plug it into this, and then you plug the fuse tap back into that same slot. The kit that I'm gonna provide in the description has 3 options. The smallest option is the one you're gonna be using today. So you're gonna take that, and since I already used the one that's in my car, I'm just gonna find another 5-amp fuse. It's gonna look somewhat like this. It should be the only one that fits into the actual fuse tap itself. And you're just gonna press that in. Now, once you have your actual fuse tap in, let's go ahead and actually test that our wiring is working before we plug everything else back up. But looking at the diagram again, this is exactly how you're gonna see your fuse box in the trunk, and you're looking for slot 47. I have it right here. It's for the DRL, and you can also see that on the list right here, 47 front DRL. So I have my old Starlights unplugged, and now we're gonna look for slot 47, which is 5 over from the left, or 5 over from the camera. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we're gonna plug this baby right in there, and it should fit. So just like that. Now we have our positive wire plugged. Now we need to make sure that our ground is grounded, and if everything's working properly, this light should turn on. And there we go. Now we know our positive is tapped, or our positive is tapped into the fuse properly. We have our negative on the actual negative terminal itself. Now we can just finalize the wiring, make this ground permanent, and we should be good to go. And again, when you're looking at it from the top side, I'm just gonna show it again. You have our fused, you have our tap right there. Again, it's 5 over from the left. And then that's your positive. You're gonna take your negative, hold it against your ground. So that means our positive power cable is good, our ground cable is good, and we have power to the actual lights itself. So once you have everything looking like it does on this diagram itself, everything should be working. Now again, the only difference that you're gonna have is that your wires are gonna be extended out for the negative and for the positive, so that it can reach from the trunk all the way to the front of the car. And where exactly in the car, reach right up there to be exact. So from there all the way back, it needs to go down that pillar, which is in the back corner, right there, and then go into the trunk. And the way I routed it was, I just took all my wiring, I shoved it underneath this, I pulled this forward a little bit, shoved it underneath, and then from there, pull all this back, pull this out, and shove the wiring up to that pillar. And when your headliner is out, you're also gonna be pulling this pillar back a little bit, so you can actually have some visual into the actual frame of the car, and that wire should be able to poke through somewhere, and you can just pull it and fish it all the way across into the front. Now, I know that this isn't your actual Starlight box, but the wiring is all gonna be the same. You're gonna have your positive going to the fuse, into the fuse tap, and then from there, you're just gonna plug your stock fuse back in here, plug it into that same location, which is slot 47. Your ground is gonna be connected to your actual ground, either the battery or on the chassis. And this should turn on when your car turns on. Now you could make it a little bit fancier and have a switch and all that, but I didn't really want that. I didn't want something I have to turn on manually or turn off manually. So I just went ahead and did this so that when the car turns on, it turns on like this. And when I turn the car off, the Starlight turn off. Now, the good thing is that if the car is on and is started and your starlights are on, you can actually go into the app and turn the starlights off. So now this way, if your car turns off and you turn it back on, they stay off. They do flicker just like that for a split second, but they stay off. And then you can just turn them back on with your app. So it's kind of a good mix between having a permanent option of them staying on permanently and having some flexibility on when you want to turn it on and off. Now, if you did want to run a switch, I'm sure this is probably a good place to run it, or right down here. It just adds to the complexity of everything. And honestly, I'm happy with this. In the last year that I've had the starlights on, I've had 0 issues with them, and they still look great. And this is only 300, by the way, if you haven't seen the other video. So just gonna reiterate that this is just part 2 for the first video, where I actually installed the starlight headliner in the car. In that video, I took out the headliner, poked all the holes, put the starlights in, and got the headliner back in. This video just kind of covers all the wiring, where to tap your fuse, what to use, all the tools that you need. And honestly, it's not too hard. You can honestly do it at home, especially with this little video breakdown and this little diagram that I'll have for you guys in the video itself. So you guys can screenshot this, use it as you like, and hopefully it's helpful. This is something I made on Microsoft Word real quick right before this video. But yeah, hopefully this was helpful. As you can see, I have an E30 here that I'm not really sure what to do with, but we're not gonna get into that in this video. Yeah, things aren't going too well for this car. But if you like what you saw today, definitely go down, subscribe, let me know if this was helpful, and definitely watch part 1 of this video if you haven't already. And if you're watching part 1 and you're coming over to part 2, even better. Appreciate you for that. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.